What if burnout isn't the problem, but the message? Because beneath the exhaustion, the overwhelm, and the constant push to keep going, there's something deeper trying to get your attention. And the real question is, are you willing to listen before your body forces you to? Enjoy the show. Welcome to Make It a Great One with Dr. Dan. I'm Dan Peters, psychologist and leadership coach. This show is all about bringing hope, connection, awareness, and wisdom through meaningful conversations that inspire us to be better versions of ourselves and have a positive impact on humanity. This is your space to pause, reflect, and reconnect with who you are, what you care about, and who you want to be. We have this moment, this day, and this life. Let's make it a great one. Today's show has been in the making for a long time. I've been very excited for this conversation with Dr. Neha Sangwan, the founder of Intuitive Intelligence, Inc. Neha is a physician, engineer, author, speaker, and communication expert. She empowers individuals, leaders, networks, and teams with effective communication tools that reduce stress, prevent burnout, inspire accountability, and empower collaboration. Her work is integrated into a corporate mental and emotional wellness program titled Bridging Me-We World. She consults for top organizations like Google, Apple, American Express, Kaiser, Stanford, and Mass General Brigham. Neha has shared her work across 3 TEDx stages and authored 2 foundational books on authentic conversations and preventing and healing burnout. Talk RX, 5 Steps to Honest Conversations that Create Connection, Health, and Happiness, and her latest, Powered by Me, From Burned Out to Fully Charged at Work and in Life. In 2024, Thinkers 50 named Neha one of the top 50 most influential executive coaches globally. Neha, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you so much. I've equally been excited and anticipating this, so can't wait to be in it.
You're in it, and I'm going to hold this up for everyone who's watching. So this is a large, beautiful book, and it is so comprehensive, user-friendly, and has so much of you in it, interwoven throughout. And when I got to the end, I was thinking, wow, this process must have been like a birth. And then I read your acknowledgments where you actually called it that. So, so it must have been.
Yes. Yeah, that book took me 20 years, 7 years of which I was writing it. And when I finally got the courage to write it, which was 13 years into the journey, it took another 7 because I kept hitting places that needed more healing. That I didn't know what the end was because I hadn't actually healed that part of me. So you're exactly right that when you include yourself in a book, it's a whole different level of inner work that has to happen for the outer work to make meaning for others.
It is a journey. And so yes, on the journey and knowing that intimately. And also, I find in writing, every time you think you're to a place where you've included what you want to include, there's something else. And that's what I was thinking it's because you covered so much. So not only, which we'll dive into, covered so many different areas and the energies that you focus on, the physical, mental, emotional, social, and spiritual. But within each of those, layers upon layers of information, of research, of intervention, of strategy, of self-help. And I was just thinking, well, I was imagining myself in your shoes, so this might not be accurate, but which was you think you get there and then you find something or your editor finds something. And I was imagining a process where what you thought you were writing and what you ended up with, I'm wondering how different those were or are.
Yeah, something about me is just that I love a challenge, and when I started to, when I burned out 20 years ago, I mean, I remember the day I walked into the hospital and I said to the nurse, "Hey, Nina, could you get me 40 milliequivalents of potassium for the gentleman in 636?" And she looks at me and she goes, "Dr. Sangwan, are you okay?" And I remember it being the first clue that I might not be. And I said, "Sure, yeah, why?" And she said, "Because that's the fourth time in under 5 minutes you've asked me that same question and I've answered you every time." So if that's a doctor's introduction to burnout,
Mm-hmm.
first I had to go through all of my own judgment and what do you mean I'm running the hospital to I'm on stress leave? Like somebody else is taking my positional power away, right? All the way to wait, how did I go to school for this long and no one ever mentioned this? To it was like a busting of everything I knew. And so in that process, I think what I realized is, oh, this is much bigger. Because if we're the ones people get sent to get paid time off and get their Ativan sleep meds or, anti-anxiety, sleep meds or antidepressants, we can do that, but we actually don't know anything after that. So the moment I realized that, Dan, that was when I knew, oh, wow. Like, no one's coming to save me. And it's going to be my job now to get myself out of this and to figure out why the world has such a big gap. And everybody's saying that healthcare costs are spiraling. And I thought this might be it. People are sending, us patients, we're doing the crisis care over and over again. Then we give them this time off, and like a month or 2 months later, we send them back in the ring for round two with no idea how they got there and no idea how to do it differently. So once I realized that, I realized two things needed to happen. I needed to take care of me first and figure my way out. Then I needed to observe, how are other people getting there? And would there be a way that we could create a catch-all that was simple,
Mm-hmm.
that could catch everybody kind of in a wide lens? That's the physical, mental, emotional, social, spiritual. And once you bring them in, give them a way to assess where they're having a net gain or a net drain of energy. And once I figured that out, it was like, oh, everybody gets here by every choice they're making. They get here because of all the patterns that have been laid neurologically from their childhood. This is so complicated. No wonder no one's working on this in a way that would heal it. They're just trying to stopgap it, right?
Right.
So what I'd say to you is, A, I realize I don't take on things that aren't a challenge. B, the engineer in me always wants the root cause. And C, I sat at the intersection of disciplines people didn't know went together. So I think that's why it took time, because I was healing myself and I was trying to figure out a way that would help anybody who was entering this, and maybe we could catch it much sooner, kind of farther upstream.
Yeah. Well, it has all come together, and I know the work has been at multiple levels, and I think that's what really draws the reader in, and particularly, I would say, your initial target audience in this work as you were recovering and building and pivoting in your career, physicians, where you started, your own people. And I was thinking, man, isn't it a setup when you think of medical school and you think of residency and you think of you as a hospitalist and you think of the all-nighters and you think of, well, just watch any of the famous TV shows for any of us, who has not walked in your shoes. which has a lot of reality as it in terms of like the lack of work-life balance and how you just have like Doritos and caffeine to get you through. It's sort of a setup for how does one have health in an environment that is not like being healthy and having balance doesn't really fit. So it makes sense that people who are achievement oriented, perfectionist oriented, would fall into this inevitable trap of losing oneself without even knowing one is lost.
That's right. It's 100% correct. And it's what's hilarious is I actually watch all those shows and like decide who's doing it more realistically, right? And I listen. I'm going to put in a plug here for the Pit because
yeah, a lot of people are talking about that. Yeah,
they're good and they point out the nuances. Like I remember recently, one of the students was saying, "Wait, but we just give her more morphine?" And he's like, "Yeah, if she's uncomfortable, you give her more morphine." And she's like, "Wait, but she's breathing kind of slow." And he's like, "Yeah. And if she is having a sensation of shortness of breath or whatever, you got to push more because her comfort is more important. And sometimes it has unintended consequences." I literally rewound that and videotaped it. I was like, wow, like they're right. But the entire season is 12 hours. It's one day. Right? So, yes, I agree. I agree on all of that. Yes.
We were talking before the show about how we are of a similar age, and that what I didn't remember then, which I am remembering now, is as I was reading your book and your timeline, there was other things that I was resonating with, and that is, I think we had our first burnouts about the exact same time, also coincidentally, which led both of us to a line in a pharmacy to pick up medication that was prescribed to us by colleagues in our fields. And it took me right back to all of those feelings of powerlessness, defectiveness. Even though I was one to recommend it all the time to clients and patients that I was working with, the idea that I would be in that vulnerable spot and that I would feel that out of control and that I would feel so, just lost, humbling to say the least.
Yeah. It's, in some ways it's good for us.
Oh, absolutely. In hindsight, absolutely.
Yeah. In the moment, not so much.
Right, right.
The self-criticism and the judgment and all of that. But I really do. I look back on it now and I say, burnout isn't a failure. Burnout is a wake-up call. It's a wake-up call that somewhere along the line, you had a spiritual breach of what mattered most to you and thinking you had to make a trade for that. And I think the trade-offs versus the trying to find a way where we can take care of ourselves and we can take care of others. That bound it really requires people to reject some of societal beliefs around it's rude to draw boundaries. No, boundaries aren't rude. Boundaries are the way that you speak your truth so that you can stay in relationship with other people for a longer period of time. Hopefully, whatever duration you both would like that to be. But it's almost like I think people's fears are what drive them and wanting to belong in society, wanting to belong in medicine, that cause us to override our own instinct, our own gut, And the way I say it is the first half of my life was all about knowledge. Well, maybe the first 30 some years was all about knowledge. Then the next 15 and continuing are about lived experience.
Wisdom. Wisdom.
yeah, weighing heavily. And now it's even more now about intuition.
Hmm.
And it's about my gut knowing. So it's almost like there's data and knowledge, there's your lived experience, and there's your intuition. And it's becoming less black and white and much more infinite shades of gray.
Absolutely. Right. The more we know, the more we don't. And there is a relief in not feeling like one has to know. And that is particularly hard if one comes from an engineering background or a medical background where you're supposed to know. And in the latter, it's like life or death. You're supposed to know. And so the idea that things are not that clear cut, do you find it gives you a space? It gives you more of an expansiveness in terms of how you can approach situations in life.
Yeah. Yeah. And we don't have to write things like non-compliant patient when someone doesn't agree with us.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. In your field, non-compliant patient, and in my historical field, it's uh, patient resistance. Right? If your if your patient or client isn't getting better, it has nothing to do with what you're doing or not doing. It's literally all their fault. Right?
Oh my goodness. People always say, are you bummed that you're getting gray hair and you're getting older and you're getting wrinkles and all these things? And I say, I wouldn't want to go back because that would mean I'd have to learn this all over again.
Same, same. I appreciate one of the things that you talk about in your work is about our indicators, right? Just like our car dashboard, we all have indicators, and we all have places in our body where we feel. And this is the whole approach of bringing people back to themselves from burnout, or helping people um, meet themselves perhaps for the first time in a long, long time. So I know mine is my chest; it's reliable. Um, Yours is your throat. You talk about your throat, right? The constriction, and knowing that from reading about you in the work, and knowing with spirituality and a lot of the Eastern philosophies and practices which you lean into and embody, as do I. I was wondering, and this has probably come up when I heard about your throat. You triggered also talking about boundaries and a voice. I was like, oh, there's the throat chakra. There's
Yep.
the right that
Yep.
voice, and how important that a voice is for health.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I was raised in the Hindu tradition, which is more of a philosophy of how to live a happy life. And they actually encourage us to learn about other people's traditions. And I think it's part of what I like so much about it, because I didn't do this because it was the throat chakra or I was thinking about chakras. It was because I went and I was a second year and a fourth year in med school. We were learning about cancers in physiology and anatomy and all these things. And all I knew is that for a majority of the time, I would feel like I couldn't take a deep breath in, and it progressively kept getting tighter and tighter and tighter. So I was convinced I had a mass in my throat. Now, does that have something to do with the fact that I was learning about esophageal cancer and all? Maybe. And it was real for me. So I literally talked two different anesthesiologists into putting me under and scoping me and looking down. And after the second one sat me up and said, "Looks great in there," he said to me, "Wait, what do you do for a living?" And I said, "I'm a fourth year med student." And he was like, "Oh my gosh, I should have asked you that before I scoped you. This is globus hystericus. You have a stress response in your throat." Now, I have to tell you, I was relieved that I wasn't dying in the next 4 months of esophageal cancer, but I was equally upset that really what he had just said to me is, Until you figure out your stress, you're going to live with this. And that felt like a sentence that had no, and no way out.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd say that so I ignored it. So I started with more caffeine and more Mountain Dew and more sugar and more. And this is what I mean, that along the way, we're in school this long, and we think if someone says to us, oh, it's a stress response, or they name something, that means that's the answer. But they've just named it. They have not given you an answer of what you're going to do with it, what it means, how do you help it. And so this book, Powered by Me, for me, was only worth me going through it all if I could create a shortcut for other people not to have it take 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
If it could take 3 months, if it could take a few years, if they could get clues and answers, those were the moments along the way that were the most painful for me.
Yeah.
When I thought I was with the people who understood.
Right.
And they didn't have answers for me.
So 4th year med student to the burnout, which was what, 2004 or so? What?
Yeah.
How long was that? Was that 20 years?
1998 to 2004. So about 6 more years.
6 more years, right? Of a slow burn, right? Just a slow burn.
Yep.
And the thing is, this is why this awareness and your work is so important, because when we're in these areas, the professions, whatever the profession that we're in or whatever the training that we're in, particularly if it's like high performance, high stakes, you're generally surrounded with other people who are just, they're your mirrors. Like they're doing the same thing. And this is where you talk about presence also, which is something that's very important to me and the work, which is everyone's in performance mode, right? So, and you don't downshift. You're not supposed to downshift. You're supposed to go faster and leaner with less and less and less, or you're going to get left behind. You're not going to be number one, whatever the story is. And so it is shaking up these micro systems, which is your work, to say, no, you're getting it all wrong. Like, not only is this not going to work, it's not sustainable, and the costs are at all levels are huge.
Yeah. And I think, a very, very big cost is us not belonging. And so, it takes people time and energy to invest in knowing who they are so they can stand in what they value and make choices that align with what matters most to them. And I don't think in our society, in our education system, we really don't have classes or teaching or education in who am I? How am I different than you? And why is that not only not a problem, but it makes the world better? It's like like if you look at a skyline of a city, what makes it beautiful is that there's different shapes and sizes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a way that, in grade school and certainly middle school for a girl, my God, it's all about like, do you look the same? But is your makeup, is your hair, everything becomes about being the same. And same thing in high school, who's popular, who's not, what are you wearing? Are you wearing the popular things? We are schooled in a way that is about being the same. And it's not until you're much older and hopefully a little bit more emotionally mature, not hopefully, it's like it takes your own work to ever get out of that. Otherwise, you just move into work, you move into your relationships, you want to be who your partner wants you to be, you want to be who your team leader wants you to be. But if you're always leading from the outside in, it has to come to some major breakdown in your divorce, you're losing a job, your whatever it is, for people to break open and crack open their heart in order to actually do the exploration.
Yes. And for those listening or watching who might have a pit in wherever your indicator is in your body, it's like never too late. As the famous quote that someone referenced a few podcasts ago, the famous quote, "It's never too late to become who you could have been." And I will say also, said another way, it's never too late to become who you really are. And it's a journey. Like Neha's talking about her journey. It's been a long journey to get to this point. I have a similar experience as well, and I think that's what life is actually about. Is it's like it's not about the timelines. I get that's what our society also messes us up a bit because it's all about global group timelines instead of individual timelines. How we all grow at different ways, but
Yeah.
we're all on the path. We're all on the path, and it's like it's when you have those wake up moments that sometimes knock you flat, or often they're the ones that knock us flat to get our attention. These are the opportunities.
Yeah. And at times like that, I used to see everybody at that time because they'd meet me in the ER or in the hospital and so every single person was at that. I never thought I was going to be a 45-year-old with cancer, never thought I was going to be a 58-year-old with a stroke, never thought. So I think one way that my learning sped up quite quickly was that I always met my patients at that moment.
Hmm.
But you don't want it to have to be the breakdown of your body.
Mm-hmm.
It can be, and for some people it will be, but it doesn't have to be, I guess, is what I'd say. If you're
Yeah.
listening to this podcast, you're probably someone who's interested in your own growth and learning. And so you're probably already doing a lot of this, right?
Right.
And so I'm imagining that the real thing is, um, when you were saying, about my throat, I want to take it a little bit farther back than 6 years. It wasn't just 6 years between, because 2 years earlier I had gotten another scope that said, nope, you're fine. So I would take that 8 years, right? But if I really want to go to where this all started, by the way, everybody, I have low thyroid. Shocker. If your thyroid has been constricted so tightly for so long, you want to start thinking about it. And it's an autoimmune issue. When I was a little girl, my mom, I'm the second daughter of three. My mom sent me away with my grandparents from 3 months old to 2 years old. My grandfather was working with the United Nations in Africa, and my grandmother wanted me to come with her. So they raised me. It was like I've always had a great relationship with my grandparents because of it. But I think what my 24-year-old and 25-year-old parents did not realize is at some point you're going to have to separate me from them. And this 2-year-old was not having it. I was like, no, 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 no. I like these big parties. I like the thing. I speak the language. I'm close to my grandparents. I thought they were my parents. So when I came back to the US from Africa, when my parents came to pick me up, my older sister really kind of right away started bullying me because she didn't really understand. Like, I wasn't a floppy baby she could control. She was 3.5 and I was 2. She only saw me when I was born and for the first few months of my life. So now she's like, oh, you think you're an only child too, and now I got to split love with my parents? So right away I was heartbroken leaving my grandparents, and I was kind of being domineered in a world I didn't know yet, with parents who didn't really understand what was going on. So I became quiet really, really quickly. After a month or two of crying, I became really quiet and silenced my voice and my heart.
Hmm.
And for anybody who knows that you had to silence yourself to be safe growing up, in my early 30s is when, like at 30 years old, when I was graduating from residency, is when I started doing my own communication and leadership work. And something happened where I started to feel alive again. So if I would really was being honest with you, I'd say that that little girl learned very early to please the outside world, even if it meant cutting off my own oxygen.
Yeah.
And she was so exhausted for
Hmm.
so long. I really do believe that the area of your body that breaks down will give you some insight into what's going on. And that's not, I mean, listen, there are people who make that scientific and talk about it. But what I would say is my lived experience of it
Yeah.
matches.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, we had a previous episode on the wisdom of the body, and it completely maps with what you're saying. And I also know it's what you in your first TEDx talk, you talked about that question that you would ask your patients, like, why you, why this, and why now?
Yeah.
And you have the data, right? Like it there were and they came up, and it was like in those moments all of a sudden there's awareness, right? There is the awareness, like the wisdom can come through the um and yeah, I think there is a high correlation. And I want to also just I don't know, I want to give your little 2-year-old a hug because man, like that, both like you said, like the most loved and special, like you had both at once. You were like had the most love and attachment, and
Mhm.
at the same time the abandonment and the not belonging and the all of the questions at such a young age.
Yeah, and I grew up, my dad wanted a son and an engineer. My mom wanted one of her girls to be a doctor, and the people pleaser in me was so strong. I was like, "Oh, those aren't mutually exclusive. I can do engineering and then I can go to medicine." I mean, anyone seeing the setup for burnout like everywhere? So
Yeah.
when we leave ourselves to, please and make peace or avoid conflict in the external world, what we really do is we get exhausted because every room we walk into requires a new show. And I think that over the last, 25-ish years that I've been doing this work, that's what I can say is the reward. The reward is I lead more from the inside out. There's room to go. I still make mistakes, but the percentage of time that I know who I am and what I need and what I want versus me adapting to what other people want, the ratio has just dramatically shifted from leading to the inside out.
Hmm. And my observation experience is when you people like you are like that, it not only models it for others, but it and gives people permission to, like, there's an energetic transfer that those that you work with can see, and start to play with embodying that themselves, when it's a really scary thing to do when you decide not to follow the norms, follow the expectations, and disappoint people, right? For yourself, which then is thought of as selfish, which we know that women in our culture have a much higher dose of that than men, although men experience it as well.
Yeah. No, I think that's right. Society has a lot of rules. Women in my mom's generation, it was it's your job to keep the family together. It's your job to endure. You're supposed to be there to serve. If things go wrong with the kids, it's your fault, right? Like there's so many ways in which be a good girl,
Hmm.
don't, you're crying, don't come out until you have a smile on your face,
Right, right.
right? There's just so many ways that it's ingrained in
Mm,
us. And I think as a world and a society, so we had the Industrial Revolution and manufacturing and all of that took care of the physical labor, automating it. Now we have the AI revolution taking mental labor and kind of, automating that. And I do believe that the heart is the next frontier, and emotional, our ability to be emotionally proficient and know ourselves, connect to others is the big deal now.
yes.
And gosh, we really need some healing in this world right now. So maybe it's a good thing that we're going to be focusing on it, because that's what's going to be, I think, in the future. the people and the companies that do really well, not just the ones who master AI,
Hmm.
but the ones who actually invest in their teams. And the reason I say business, and I'm talking about it in this way, is I just don't think that our education systems and our family systems and our world is set up to help people develop that. And I think businesses have a vested interest in their teams being connected, trusting each other, innovating, collaborating, all of those things. So I think business is a great model for the forward thinking leaders
Hmm.
to invest in what society has missed.
I agree. And as an institution, right, it can be institutionally positive. That is actually the training field, the fertile ground for raising good humans. And in this day and age, and AI, of course, is coming up a lot in all of our conversations for good reason. It is about leaning into what's uniquely human.
Mhm.
I mean, we know we're watching every day something else gets automated. And we believe that we cannot be automated, right? Like if we come from the heart, if we come from connection, if we come from um, attachment and communication, we know that it can be emulated. It's not. It is not the same ultimately,
Yeah.
and this is why I think we're at this really transition point at this precipice, and I know Brene Brown has been talking a lot about, people keep saying like lean into your humanness, but that just freaks everyone out because no one knows how to do that, which is
That's
to
right.
the point of like what you're talking about, which is like
Yep.
how do we create that so it's part of these living, breathing organizational systems that is completely counter to traditional business, profit, margin. It doesn't take those out, but it leads with a whole different focus.
Yeah. And I think it's so wise. Like, there will be the leaders in AI, and then there will be the leaders in companies that are the forward thinking ones that see beyond where we're headed. And I'm in real agreement with that. I was thinking that um, when we were talking that the five questions might be something good to give them. Whoever's listening, I call it the awareness prescription, and just bring up um, some sort of a challenge in your life. I did this with my clients, my patients, really in the hospital. So I'll give it to you in the framing of if you have like a health issue. But here's what I want you to know: these questions, they work for any dilemma, right? And sometimes the answers that come to you don't make like logical sense, but that's okay because that's your intuition talking. Just let it go. I've never heard someone say something that wasn't right for them. So the first question of the awareness prescription when you're facing a challenge is why this? So let's say it was my patient with a heart attack. Why a heart attack? Why not your liver or your left leg? What's the significance of this part of your body breaking down? um I remember my patient saying something like, um oh doc, I know why my heart broke down. I thought I left it in Vietnam. And when I saw my buddies being blown up, I was 22 years old and I just couldn't bear that pain. I thought I left it there. Apparently I've still got this ticker with me. And the second question, why now? Why not years ago? Why not 2 days from now? What's the message your body is giving you in this moment that you needed to end up in this hospital bed with me? What was the message? And he said something to the effect of, you know, well, I think the arteries around my heart shut down just like I've shut all the relationships and connections to me down. Like, they come up with these profound things and you're like, "Oh my, you just like connected it to the anatomy of the heart?"
Mm.
Like, okay. Then it was when hindsight's 2020. If hindsight's 2020, what clue, pattern, signal might you have missed that make perfect sense right now? And he's like, "I should have known. I mean, my wife is an ex for a reason. My daughter doesn't speak to me. Like, I just shut my whole heart down and wondered why my community left. He's like, so I should have seen that coming. And then question number 4, what else in your life needs to be healed? And question number 5, if you spoke from the heart, what would you say?
Hmm.
And people know what the root of their stress is. And I want to say this to people. The reason this is really powerful is stress causes or exacerbates more than 80% of all illness. And so the real question is not, can I get you through a heart attack? That's crisis care. We need to get you through the heart attack, though, okay? Let me be clear. But in parallel, what you want to be asking is, what's at the root of my stress? And those questions really seem to help people get to the root of their stress.
Hmm.
So when the world's moving faster and faster by the minute, right? You're going to need to know your internal data because the world's whipping around fast. You know, we're fine one day in 2020 and then we're in the pandemic. And if you don't have a lot of data externally to rely on because things are moving so fast, you better have some internal data that feels rock solid.
Mm-hmm.
You got to know what your throat constriction means, your stomach turning means. You need to know what your heart racing means. You need to know what values matter to you that you anchor into. You need to understand what your emotions are about. You need to understand if you're being driven by fear or love. There's so much data inside you, and our families, society, education, for the most part, has you focusing outward and taking your cues from out there. But I don't think that's going to work anymore. There's a new paradigm. And the
Mm-hmm.
question is, are you going to be in that paradigm?
Yes. Yes. And yes, you mentioned you have to have the data. And this is data beyond the head because so many of us live in the head, right? We're problem solving. We're using our thinking skills. And you're talking about full body, mind, emotional, spiritual, all of it.
Yeah.
I'm going to repeat. I was trying to write this down quick in my very not neat handwriting. So here are the questions. Why this? Why now? In hindsight, if hindsight is 2020, what clues or patterns could you have missed?
That make
Um,
perfect sense now.
that make perfect sense now. What else in your life needs to be healed? And finally, if you spoke from your heart, what would you say?
You got it. That's called the awareness prescription.
The awareness prescription from Doc Neha. Okay. And you guys, these are, I was answering some of the questions as I was going through the book too. And just be aware what pangs you get and where, and try to stop when you get one because they don't all hit. And yeah, when you're reading or you're listening, just you can go through it. But when you get a pang or you get a hit, just sit with it because our inclination is like, that's uncomfortable. I don't want to go there right now. And then to move on, any little awareness is the beginning. It's the seed. Um, and
Yeah.
the stuff that we fear, Neha, right? The stuff that we fear and avoid is usually not even close to what we think it is. I mean, there is a lot of really big stuff, but it gets really big in our head. It gets, and as we always say that avoidance is anxiety's best friend. So what anxiety does is it wants us to avoid things because it just makes it bigger and stronger and scarier. When if we can look at the fire or look at the storm, I know from my own experience, it's like it's surprising how once you kind of walk through it, how much relief there is in facing the monster instead of hiding or running away from it.
Yeah. I mean, what's that quote? The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure that you seek.
Yes.
And I always think of that. But, you know, it's almost like life circumstances have to become too complex to handle for someone to prioritize it.
Hmm.
And then in that moment, they need to have motivation, not hopelessness. And then there's like this piece where they need the right support around them in order to have the, um, like, to feel like they can make that change, but not so much support that they can stay comfortable.
Hmm.
And so I think about the difference between change and transformation, like true transformation. And to me, it really is about when you have a new awareness that something isn't how you want it to be. The next step is, can you shift into personal accountability for it? Can you take ownership for your part in it? The third part is, okay, so now you've got this new awareness, you know what your part is in it is. Then you get to explore and say, like, what are other ways this could be done? I could show up, I could, whatever it is. And then you get clear on which of those exploration pieces you want to try. And then you take action. And that action gives you feedback, which gives you a new awareness, and and people think that this is something that you finish or you check off a list. My hope for everybody listening is that you become a self-cleaning oven. That it is just going around and around, like, I know I'm going to be learning and making mistakes till the day I die. And I hope I am, because that means I'm getting out of my comfort zone. But in the end, I want to learn new lessons. I don't want to learn the same one over and over again with a different name. Like right now it's, Joe, and later on it's Bobby. Like, no, I don't want to be betrayed over and over again and think they're different, but they're like the same scenario,
Hmm.
just a different name. And I think when people do the work that we're speaking about, what's so great is you graduate from that lesson in life school and you now get to go on to something interesting and new. And you have so much more capacity. And I think right now in the world that we're in, if people aren't doing that, they're going to head to overwhelm and burnout pretty quickly.
Hmm.
So it's becoming more of a necessity than a nice to have.
Yes. And I really appreciate how you anchor it in burnout, because it does take away the stigma, right? I think we've come a long ways in terms of destigmatizing or less for mental health issues. And because that's how they often show up if they don't show up like a heart attack or another physical issue. But I feel like burnout is something that everyone can relate to. I mean, if your parents burn out, right? Teachers burn out, physicians burn out, lawyers burn out, um, mechanics burn out, like anyone,
Students.
students burn, yeah, especially students, like everyone burns out or has um, the propensity to burnout. It's universal, and it's something that binds us all together. So the idea of coming at it from an a wellness model, which you do, for reducing and preventing burnout, a different sort of human condition, I think it speaks to the masses.
Yeah. I think that was the big deal. Like 20 some years ago when I burned out, it was still a lot of stigma. There was a lot of stigma around it. And I think now mental health is so much, yeah, so much more out in the open, and people are speaking about it. And it's funny, I went on book tour with Raj, my partner. We did something called the Energize and Awaken tour. The Energize was my part and the Awaken part was his memoir. And as we traveled, people said things like, "Well, you've written a book on conflict and how to lean into healthy conflict, and when you don't, how it makes you sick. And you've written a book on burnout. So does that just mean like all your relationships rock and you always like have energy and never burn out?" And I started laughing so hard. I was like, I think I almost burned out on my burnout tour.
Totally.
Like I'm going
Yeah.
city to city. We're flying, we're doing all these things. And so it's not that I don't get into conflict or I don't make mistakes or that I don't burn out. It's that I'm just sharing what I've learned about these topics, and I can pick up the signs earlier. So the moment I
Yeah.
start not being quite like myself, I call it out. And I'm like, oh, Neha, that's the alarm phase of burnout. Like, what do you need to do to get back on track? Because this is your first deviation. Because I burned out. That means my wiring in this lifetime is toward extremes, is toward excellence and taking on challenges and all of these things. So my lifelong journey is going to be this. And by the way, when you figure out your lifelong journey, that cave you fear to enter that holds the treasure that you seek, the coolest thing is it leads to your highest purpose. And I can definitely say that this has been the biggest gift of my
Yeah,
life.
that's awesome. That's awesome. I wouldn't peg you as a high achiever with starting as an engineer and then moving on to being a partner at the hospital. No, I didn't see that coming. Um, so everyone, Raj Sisoria, who was on last month, I believe, Conscious Capitalism, who Neha's referencing, and man, I just think of the Energy and Awaken tour, like 2025. I'm imagining a shirt with all of the cities that you went to, and if there is one, I want one. It's like a total concert tour. That is a great. That's that's great, and I know, and it's the burnout from the anti-burnout book tour. That's another important message. Before we get on, you said you were on 70 podcasts, and that's not when you had to travel to speak. I mean, I know you were traveling while you were doing it, but so that's on top of all of that. And it's like, just when we get to one door or one precipice, as you point out, it just doesn't end. Like there's another little lesson or a potential, I don't want to say trap, but it just keeps coming for us to continue to try to be more and more aware.
Yeah, deepen our learning, right? But I think that's what makes life interesting, and find other people on the journey who you can share it with and who you want to do this work with so that it can be a journey. It's not a destination. The
Hmm.
destination is not where I'm headed. Like, like 6 feet under. Like, that is
Right.
not with the
No,
destination.
no, but okay,
The journey.
I have to ask when that ended for you, because I feel like as a fellow, a former high achiever in recovery, however we want to phrase it, it was always about the end. It was always about getting to the top of that mountain or getting this degree or this milestone or this or this or this. And at some point for me, with a lot of work, it started to switch to the journey. So I'm wondering, was that for you, was it a pivotal moment, or was it just accumulated over time?
So I'd say that I don't know that I'm there yet, but what I'll say is that I have always cared about excellence. And as you heard my story of when I was little, I always cared about socially belonging because my break with my grandparents and then not belonging or feeling like I belonged in my own family was really hard for me. And so I wouldn't be telling the truth if I didn't say that I want to meet society's social markers of a book that does well, or, but I remember one of my colleagues who also is an author saying to me at like, I don't know, 9 months into this book tour, like, did you get, like, were you a New York Times bestseller? Did you get the numbers for your publishing house? And I remember looking at him and saying, yeah, I don't play that game anymore.
Mm,
I didn't answer it because I didn't think I did well. I did fine. No, I wasn't a New York Times bestseller, but I was an Amazon bestseller. I did a bunch of things, but in that moment I was like, "Oh, this game never ends. It never ends." And
nope.
the moment I got that, it felt like, you know what it feels like, Dan? It feels like incremental awarenesses that through lived experience, I surprise myself that I've advanced another step.
Yeah.
Because the first book I was like, "Oh, well, I didn't know." Like, I was so, like, apologetic and I somehow wasn't worthy or whatever it was, and by the second one, I was like, "Yeah, come on. Do you have anything else you wanna ask me? Because 'Cause I'm not playing that game."
Right.
Right? It
Right.
was like, it doesn't matter because 'cause I'm proud of this book, and I think
Yeah.
it's gonna really help people, and I
Yeah.
was happy with it.
Yeah. That's the inner work. That's the inner work. And that just reminded me of the story in your story after you gave a talk. where you, which other things I appreciate you is how you get emotional when it's natural during a talk with emotional information. And the man came up to you after to ask you a question. And his question was
Oh, yeah.
something like, why did you have to make up crying during
Yeah.
your talk?
Yeah, you're
And
talking about my TEDx Berkeley talk.
yeah, the first
So
one. That was the first one, right?
if any of you want to watch it, it's called The Communication Cure, TEDx Berkeley. It's like from 2012.
It's
Okay.
great. And I know it was really stressful and you went out there not knowing if you knew it. And it was amazing because it was so authentic. Like you were so authentic and that's where the tears came from. But go ahead.
So I happened to get a last minute TEDx talk spot. Somebody canceled. So I only had 7 days to write a talk, create slides, get my outfit, memorize everything. And all I can tell you is my world was on call for those 7 days. My parents, my best friends, my, graphic designer, I called everybody in. When I got to the event at 10 in the morning, I thought I had note cards, pink note cards that I was still trying to memorize the talk. And this amazing guy, his name's Charles Holt, opens the event. You should look his talk up too. It was so good. And he half danced, he sang, he told a story, he did the whole thing. And at the end of his talk, I looked at my best friend Kathy and I was like, I don't think pink note cards are going to work here. And I realized he was the opening act of Lion King on Broadway. And I realized all of a sudden the magnitude of what was happening. And she was like, no problem, Nay. She's a nurse, by the way, where I had been a doctor. No problem, Nay. Let's go in the green room. We got 5-6 hours. You could memorize anything. All your med school is going to come right in use right now. We kept going over and over and over it. So you can imagine how nervous I was by the time they called my name. So in the talk, there were 2 times that I could feel tears moving up my throat. And I'm like trying to make them go down because I know 2,000 people are in the audience. It's live streaming on the internet. Part of the deal at TEDx Berkeley is the speakers go out afterwards to mingle with the students and the audience. That's like one of the reasons they like going. So when I'm out there mingling afterwards, a Middle Eastern, probably 30-something-year-old man walks up to me and says, "Hi, Dr. Sangwan. I really enjoyed your talk. I was just wondering why you had to fake cry to get attention."
I was pissed when I read that, by the way. So your response was impressive.
And I took a nice deep breath in, knowing he had no idea what I just told you, and having grace for this human who may have had that experience in his life. And I said to him, "Thank you for your honesty. It sounds like you and I had a different experience of what happened on stage. Was there anything else you wanted to talk to me about?" And he was so stunned. He kind of backed away and he's like, no, that was it." He was still processing that might not be my reality. But it was the day that I knew I took a seismic step up in shifting from outside in affecting me to leading from the inside out.
Yes. Boom. Exactly. And the other thing now that I'm thinking about from that event, you brought up Holt. What's his first name?
Oh, Charles Holt.
Charles Holt. What he told you, which it sounded like helped as you were going on stage, was this exchange where it was basically he confirmed for you that being on stage is not for you, it's for them. And it hit me like it's when you switch to you switched into service. And right. And when it's like the attention is off of me and I'm up here for you.
Yeah.
Completely different experience.
Yeah, well, I think I'd say that to anyone who gets nervous before you speak in front of a group of people, before you do something that you might feel like you look foolish. I was in the green room with Kathy, going over that memorization over and over. We did it for 5.5 hours straight. Okay. By the time Kathy then looked at me and she's like, "You got this, Nay." And I looked at her and I said, "No, I don't, Kathy. We got to do it one more time." And she goes, "No, Nay, you got this." And she walked and she's like, "I'm going to go in the audience and get a good seat." And she went and I'm standing there and I'm like petrified. And I must have been pacing or something because in comes Charles Holt. Nobody else is around. He's probably about, I don't know, 5'7", 8, like there, and really well built. And he sees me and he just looks at me and he says, "Is there any way that I can support you?" I've never met him in my life. And I said to him, "Can you please breathe with me?" And like it was the most natural thing he's ever done, he just put his arms around me and we both just started breathing together. And as I started to calm my nervous system down, I was so surprised, like this awareness. I said to him, "Oh, like this isn't about me. What you did on stage was you weren't concerned about yourself or making a mistake. You were in service to the audience. That's what I'm supposed to do." And he was like, "That's exactly how you do it." He said, "On Broadway, we do these kinds of exercises to calm our nervous system. We do it all the time." But how did I get the very man who inspired me going in the back room, showing up at the last minute? And then I heard, "Neha, it's time to mic." And I walked out the door. I mean, it was like an angel. You know,
Yeah,
sometimes you
totally.
run into things and you say, it's like,
Yeah.
you're an angel on earth.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like.
Yeah. And you delivered such an authentic talk. And I know I could surmise it was such a huge experience and moment for you to do it, to get through it, and to come out on the other side.
Well, you know, I watched that talk, I don't know, 100 times to try and figure out what made me tearful.
Mm.
And I realized when I talked about Brandon, my patient, it
Mm-hmm.
was the moment I talked about him wanting his father to be proud of him. Then at the end, when I do it a second time, it was the moment I'm telling the audience that my father was proud of me.
There
And
you
I was
go.
like, "Oh, I didn't even know that that was still a thing that I was wanting," you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
in the end, every one of these experiences, they
Yes.
just help you know yourself better.
Yeah.
And if you don't take other people's stories, you know, or judgments about you so seriously, even that middle-aged guy, that Middle Eastern guy who was in his mid-30s, not middle-aged, Middle Eastern guy in his 30s, he gave me the opportunity to show up differently.
Yeah.
Because I think if I was 10 years earlier, I would have
Yeah.
been like this. "No, I didn't." But I would
Yeah.
have tried to defend myself.
Right.
But there's a power in not doing that.
Thank you.
Hmm.
Thank you for sharing this time and all of your wisdom, all of your earned wisdom. What is one thing you would like to leave everybody with?
Really, that your physiology, your own biology is always in communication with you. And if you haven't slowed down to spend the time to decipher its communication and the way it's trying to help you, that throat constriction of mine wasn't an annoyance or a hindrance. It was trying to tell me that I wasn't speaking my truth. And so I think if we're going to help the world connect again, we have to first connect inside of ourselves so that our mind isn't telling our overriding our body or our emotions. Like we have to actually do the work where all of us, our body, mind, heart, and spirit are all on the same team. And I will tell you, if I can get a spiritual energy section into a business, McGraw-Hill business book, the world is changing. And by spiritual, by the way, I want people to know that the spiritual section means it's about your highest values. It's about why you get up and dedicate your energy and time to whatever matters most to you. So it's like your top values. And it's not woo-woo and it's not vague. It's actually, when you know your highest values, you can make quick and effective decisions.
Yes.
With a lot less information. So it's really practical. And the other piece I'd say is whether you feel appreciated and valued at work and at home, and how you navigate the unknown. And that's self-trust. So do you take risks? Do you innovate? How do you navigate the unknown? Those are what I'm talking about when I talk about spiritual energy.
Yes.
Yeah. So I thought maybe that would be something that people might not be clear on. Like, what is she talking about? So
it is clear, and that's great. And the book, everyone, Powered by Me. Neha in a moment is going to tell you where to find it, as well as other stuff. But I want to just leave you with one just big question she asked throughout the book, which she has said and touched on today a lot. Is it a net gain or is it a net drain? Right? So there's so many actually simple questions that, of course, deciphering them within your body and your mind and your spirit takes a little bit of doing. But think about on a day-to-day basis if something is giving you a net gain or a net drain. And I think when we're honest with ourselves these days, there is a lot draining us. It's the opportunity to look at them and see what steps you can make to balance the scale or tip it the other way.
Yeah, and if people are confused, really what Dan's talking about, the net gain and net drain, is not just when your head says, if I ask you about sleep, and your head says, oh, I'll sleep when I'm dead. Your mind will override things, but he's actually talking about simultaneously tuning in to your body. Is it heavy, constricted, or tight? Or when I ask you that question about sleep, do you feel light, at ease, relaxed, and well rested? So you have to use both your thought process and check into your body map, right? That throat, the, constriction or relaxation. When you do that, let's say your body and your mind don't agree, you always go with your body because your body doesn't lie. Your physiology doesn't lie. It's always keeping score. So that's what he's talking about in the net gain, net drain. And you said, where should they go? Well, if they want to get a hold of me, they can use my name, nehasangwan.com. It's the same website as intuitiveintelligenceinc.com, the corporate arm of what I do. The books, Powered by Me, and TalkRx. TalkRx is an audio form and on Amazon Audible. On Audible. And Powered by Me is anywhere. It should be Kindle, audiobook or hardcover, and you can find it anywhere they sell books. So,
I have, of course, the hardback because I keep showing you guys, but I also mostly listened to it, and it was great hearing you. Right. So if there's something about hearing the author tell their story in the book. So I highly recommend that as well.
Yeah. Just imagine me sitting in a tiny soundproof booth for 1 week in New York City.
Oh, so relaxing and peaceful. Yeah. Yeah.
It was kind of surreal.
Yeah,
really.
I bet.
I have to tell you, the whole thing has been quite an incredible journey. Yeah. So I am very clear that I get to do this. And it is an honor and privilege to have been with you. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Neha. Neha brings so much wisdom to what she speaks about from her own personal experience, her professional experience, and all of the work that she does to help people become more self-aware, understand the different energy sources in our bodies and how to decipher what is draining us versus what is giving us energy, and to increase mental health while preventing burnout. So much information in this conversation. Here are 5 key takeaways. Number 1, burnout isn't failure, it's feedback. It's your body and spirit signaling that something is out of alignment, not that you're broken. Number 2, Your body is always communicating. Are you paying attention? Tightness, fatigue, anxiety, these aren't inconveniences, they're data. Number 3, awareness is the beginning of transformation. Asking the right questions, why this, why now, can unlock insight that logic alone can't reach. Number 4, living from the outside in leads to exhaustion. True energy and alignment come when you begin leading from the inside out. Number 5, you don't need to hit rock bottom to wake up. The invitation to grow is always there. You just have to choose to respond before the crisis forces the change. So much information to take in from this conversation. So many things to think about. What is our body telling us? What are our patterns? What keeps repeating? Where are we getting stuck? Are we taking care of ourselves? Where is our energy coming from and where is it going? All questions for us to ask ourselves as we continue to grow and as we continue on this human journey. We are interested in what you think about this episode, so please feel free to leave us a comment at Dr. Dan Peters on Instagram or reply to any of our social posts. I wanted to let you all know that I'm opening some coaching spots to you listeners. If you are feeling stuck, if you are searching for meaning, if you know there is more, if you don't feel you're fully using all of your capacity, I would love to help you on your journey. Feel free to reach out to me at www.drdanpeters.com. Thank you for listening, for being a part of this amazing community, for subscribing and bringing all of your people to us. As always, remember, we have this moment, this day, and this life. Let's make it a great one. This has been a Peters and Rossi production. Make It a Great One with Dr. Dan is produced by Laura Rossi. Our engineer is Phil Rossi. Theme music is Uplifting Folk by Awesome Music. Artwork by Kelly Dwyer. Follow us on social media at Dr. Dan Peters. For more information, visit drdanpeters.com.